Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who didn't want to review the album that he is reviewing. Long live DJ Shay by the Black Soprano Family. I had already started my review of that Sudan Archives album, which I have a lot to say. I can't wait to make that one as well. And you know, like I try to review everything that Griselda puts out, but I sort of thought, well, I can get away with not doing this one. This is sort of, even though Benny the Butcher is part of Griselda, it's sort of his own thing, his own posse. So I sort of thought, I'll miss this one. No one's going to notice, and probably no one would have. And the name Black Soprano Family is just so goofy. I just, for how serious and how good Benny the Butcher is, Black Soprano Family just seems kind of goofy. And I just sort of thought, okay, I don't have to get this one. But you see, what bothers me about the Black Soprano Family as a name is, you know, it's the Sopranos are fake. And Benny the Butcher's whole thing is that he's real. So it's like a real gangster being in love with a fake gangster. And then even on top of that, the Sopranos are fake gangsters imitating real gangsters who are primarily gangsters imitating fake gangsters. You know, there's that great scene where Tony asks, I think, Silvio to recreate the scene from Godfather 3. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. You know, it's this great moment of sort of like fake real looking at fake and all that. But so what? This album's really good. I couldn't resist it. Just when I thought I was out, it pulled me back in. As you know, if you've been watching this channel, I have a 3-week-old baby. Happy birthday to her. And it's funny because I often will calm her down by listening to music. And basically, for the last 3 weeks, almost everything I've been listening to has been underground hip-hop. But definitely, this album seems to have calmed her down the most. Now, I'm writing scripts. Realistically, she probably can't even really differentiate between sounds. Realistically, she probably doesn't even really know what my face looks like, okay? Baby's development is funny. But I've written this little script. You know, in our house, every member of our house was born in Massachusetts, me, my kids, California, my wife, Yugoslavia. This baby is the first native Western New Yorker. So maybe she feels a connection to this music that we can't feel. The other reason I really want to review this album eventually, after deciding I didn't want to. So I didn't want to, and then I heard it with my kids, and I realized, wow, this is really good. I heard the DJ Premier beat. I said, I got to talk about this. It's also the title, Long Live DJ Shay. So, you know, hip-hop doesn't do a great job of recognizing its elders. It really doesn't. It doesn't do a great job of recognizing the people who got people there, especially if those people were largely behind the scenes. You know, okay, people will talk about Russell Simmons, but beyond that, you know, like there's not a lot of talk about a lot of these people who find and cultivate artists. So DJ Shay, it's like if you like the Buffalo sound, if you like what's been happening out of Queen City, you basically have DJ Shay to thank. He's the guy who was really there and helped to establish this entire scene, who found these artists, who nurtured them, while also being a talented producer himself. So he died in 2020 of COVID. So, COVID. And this gave me an opportunity to really think about who was DJ Shay. I'd heard his name, I'd heard him shout it out, but you know, who is he really? And this album is very touching in that way because he was actually a part of the Black Soprano Family. Now, part of the reason why I didn't want to review it is, you know, I'm fascinated by Benny the Butcher's development that I've been seeing over the last couple albums, where it seems as though he's getting more and more introspective and more personal. That's Toby, my dog. He's going to bark for a little bit. Hey, Toby, can you stop? I'm talking about Benny the Butcher. I don't want the Benny the Butcher to come after you. Okay. You know, like he's been on this sort of trajectory, it seems, along with a lot of hip-hop, of getting more introspective, more what I call hearty, you know, like more about the heart, about life and the material conditions in which he lived, more vulnerability. And, you know, that was with Tiny Talk 4. You saw that, and I get the sense, and it's been teased, that there's like the big Benny the Butcher album coming out. Like his masterwork is about to come out. Now, Tandem Talk 4 was just great. I mean, it's going to be hard to get much better than that. But still, like, he's on this way. And this is not about introspection. This is not about vulnerability. It's a posse album, you know? And that's like a posse album. Like, this is my crew. There's a whole thing in hip-hop where, you know, once you get on, you then help other people who are around you to get on as well. And sometimes this works, and those members become famous as well. Sometimes it doesn't. You know, like the Flip Mode Squad from the 90s, that album is great. Like, the first album is just spectacular. No one from there, like, made it. But, you know, then you get, I don't know, Rough Riders, and basically every member made it. Or the G Unit. Gun it. So because of that, like, these albums can sometimes feel more superficial or more just like hunger-based. Just everybody who's on here is hungry so that you can listen to them as much as the one guy you wanted to listen to who's on this album, you know? So when you listen, or when people would listen to a G Unit album back in the days, they were just waiting for 50's verse. So a posse cut album is only as good as the posse. And the posse is really strong. I don't know these artists. I mean, I've obviously heard them across many different Griselda projects. It's not like I'm totally new to them. I didn't listen to the last Black Soprano Family album. I've only heard about a quarter of Benny the Butcher's albums. Feel free to tell me which ones I missed. It's the way I do the channel. I wasn't paying attention to Griselda up until their like Shady debut, and ever since then, I've like listened to everything. But everything before that is a mystery to me. But, you know, like, I'll sort of break down this group or the members as I sort of see them. You know, El Camino is probably my favorite. I like the car El Camino so much that every time I see an El Camino, I sing a song. El Camino. And when I graduated high school, I pretended that my middle name was El Camino, just as a laugh. And my mom thought it was kind of funny, but it was a little bit annoyed. So I did the same thing when I graduated college. So I did the same thing when I got my doctorate. Now presenting. You know, so he's just great. He's got the hunger, he's got the talent, and in a very similar way, I'd put sort of BSF Heem up there as well. Kind of an easy-to-love guy. And then you have Rick Hyde, who I think is the hardest to love. And I think this whole album, and my experience with this album, is coming to terms with and coming to love Rick Hyde. I mean, I never disliked him. But he's sort of the anchor, you know? Like, he's sort of the base level. And that can come across as generic if you're not paying attention, but the more that I listened to it, the more I appreciated it. And also, he's a very good producer who produces a couple of the tracks. So, let me give you an example of this album. And I'm gonna start off by talking about an interlude. How many times have I talked positively about a rap interlude in my entire life? Well, we're getting ready for time number 1. Sit Down at Primo's. So this is beautiful. It's a conversation between DJ Premier, one of the greatest producers in hip-hop history, a groundbreaking producer, and DJ Shay. And it's this whole conversation where DJ Premier is like, did you do 18-wheeler? And they had this whole conversation about the song 18-wheeler, which prompted me to go listen to 18-wheeler, which is a great beat. I hate to say it. 18-wheeler is probably a better song than anything on this album, which is not throwing shade, as the kids say. I'm not throwing shade on this album, just that song happens to be so good. A very beautiful, hard-hitting boom-bap beat, a great haunting organ, and an appearance by Pusha T. Pusha T, who I'm seeing in concert tomorrow. I'm excited. I believe I have all the tennis balls for the correct sport. And when you listen to this original song 18-wheeler, you know, you hear it sounds very much like somebody who loves DJ Premier. And it helped me to rethink the way I thought of the Buffalo sound, because I only ever really thought of it as like a bunch of guys trying to sound like Wu-Tang 15 years after everyone stopped trying to sound like Wu-Tang. But if instead we see it as like, yeah, the Wu-Tang stuff is there too, but also developing DJ Premier's style, because DJ Premier knows how to put on drums, but DJ Premier does all this scratching and all this sampling, which just is not done as much in this Invisible Renaissance. And you really hear the influence there. And so there's this beautiful conversation where DJ Shay explains to DJ Premier, oh, you just like that song because I took your snares, like I took your sounds. It's this beautiful moment where artists recognizing artists, like it's a fun, free, breezy moment. And you get the, like, in this moment, you have this reverence for DJ Premier, you have this appreciation for DJ Shay, you have this feeling like you're a fly on the wall in a great moment of hip-hop. Like, really, a great moment in hip-hop. And it's hard to say because, you know, DJ Premier is not a household name, and DJ Shay is not a household name. You know, not a household name, hip-hop household, but not a household name. But still, it's just really special to hear them talking. And then we get the stamp. And you have to, if you haven't listened to this song, listen to this song. Times is Rough. Just, DJ Premier does a lot of guest beats. This is as good as any guest beat I've ever heard him do. It's just such a great boom, 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 this like little horn that goes and these little like tense strings in between, and then he does his DJ Premier stuff of cutting up samples over and over again. I mean, he created this really frenetic style of very fast cut samples as a reaction to the lawsuit that poor Biz Markie had to go through with Gilbert O'Sullivan and the song Alone Again, naturally. You know, so like once it was clear that sampling was no longer going to be done for free, DJ Premier figured out how to do these samples much quicker. Still, everyone who sampled gets songwriting credit on this song, so I guess that doesn't work now either. But it's just such a great, you know, it's quoting Raekwon from Cream by Wu-Tang, you know, rough and tough. You know, times is rough and tough. And whenever you hear people sampling a song you know really well, it's fun because you complete the sample. So every single time I hear it, I go, like leather. Times is rough and tough, like leather. The entire time I'm hearing it, it's like, times is rough and tough. And then inside my brain, like leather. And I believe there's also a little Biz Markie, wow, quote in there as well. Just great. I mean, it feels to me, and maybe I'm projecting, but this feels like a real expression of love for DJ Shay from DJ Premier. Its presence on this album. Now, if I was more cynical, I'd say, DJ Premier's got buckets and buckets of beats, and if you give him enough bucks, you can buy a bucket of beats, right? But I don't think so. I don't think Benny the Butcher just bought a bunch of bucket of beats. I think this is a love project. That's how it feels to me. This song opens up with Benny the Butcher, super strong. Just opening lines to rap songs are just a thing that I'm obsessed with because it's actually pretty rare that they're awesome, but just I'm running out of reasons to feel sorry. It's blood in the streets. Just a great, really strong line. The rest of this verse is quite good. Being up felt so good. No, being up felt good. No, being up feel good, but not better than being sure. I'm a product of the cocaine 80s drug wars. From the moment I start to feel that love's gone, I'm back with gloves on, just in case you was rubbed wrong. You know, so he's talking about the precarity of his situation, that even though he's up, that could always go away. And if he needs to, he can go back to the streets. Heem comes on here, and he just has a flexing verse. Like, he rhymes everything with it's. You know, the opening line is, tell the truth, we don't need no hits. Another great opening line. And then the rest of the whole verse rhymes with that it's, including Welch's grape, cheese, eggs, and grits. Awesome. Just a really great, very strong verse. And DJ Premier just makes these beats that if it were up to you, you just listen to them forever. Rick Hyde is, again, very strong, but the least remarkable, you know. We all shoot like the Warriors with Kevin on it. That's a pretty good basketball line. I'm glad I started paying attention to basketball again, because in order to really follow hip-hop these days, you have to have like a very deep... I had to like look up, I'm like, Sam Perkins is... Because I think later on in the album, I think it's Boldy James refers to Sam Perkins. I'm like, I think there's a basketball player. I don't think he's talking about the guy who wrote Blue Suede Shoes. So that's an example track. Times is Rough. It's just beautiful. And that's what made me feel compelled to review it. And I want to go back to a point that I make all the time. We're a bunch of spoiled babies. Griselda has spoiled us. They release so much good, high-quality hip-hop that works on close listen, that works just loud while you're hanging out, that works in the car, works in the headphones, that I could have easily just missed this album. And if you take me of 5 years ago, before I started this channel, and you said, listen to this one album, I would have been like, this is the greatest thing ever. I can't believe someone made something like this, one thing like this. And Griselda drops something like this constantly. This actually ties pretty well into my review of the rest of the album. I'm going to start now at the beginning here with the intro, with the beat by DJ Shay, From the Grave. Great old school boom bap beat, this kind of rising bass. And here we have Westside Gunn just kind of talking. As a French professor, I like him saying bonjour, oui, oui, talking about he's fresh from Paris. He makes this flex, and that's why this is in the back there. This is the back of a peanut butter Captain Crunch box. They make these little maps, and so I decided to like tape them all together for my kids. It's actually for me. So he has this line. It's, you ever have peanut butter Captain Crunch with rosé before? And this is a great lyric because it expresses so much. Like, how do you stay street while also being in Fashion Week at Paris? Like how do you stay true to yourself while also evolving? And this is a problem that I have. You know, even though, you know, my parents are educated and I come from an educated milieu. I grew up in a nice suburb, all that stuff. Still, like, part of me feels kind of like a hick. I mean, not like a hick, but I guess probably because of the way I grew up, the food culture in my house wasn't great. That, you know, like I remember I started eating a lot of jalapeno poppers, cheese doodles, which are made by Hers. And they're just gross. But like combining that with like a really fine cognac is actually very enjoyable to me. And on the one hand, like I do have the degustatory vocabulary to understand what is great about good cognac versus bad cognac. I can do that. But also, I grew up eating Doritos. I grew up eating Doritos in my bed, pretending I was a Rancor monster eating Star Destroyers. Like, I didn't grow up on cognac. I grew up on cheese doodles, you know? So there's something about this line which, it sounds silly, but I also think it is essential to understand where he's coming from and the importance of figures like him, who are trying to sort of switch codes, trying to grow out of the position that they were born into, while at the same time not abandoning what was there in the past. You know, just yesterday I had a really nice conversation with the YouTuber Bliss Foster. I'm helping him research some stuff on a video he's doing. And like, it was really exciting. It was awesome talking to him. And I was trying to explain to him like why Westside Gunn is so interesting and why he should do a video on Westside Gunn. And part of it's that like, whatever it is that Kanye does, Westside Gunn does too, but there's just a rawness to it. There's the peanut butter Captain Crunch to it all, which Kanye's relationship to the sort of old days is a lot more tenuous. Westside Gunn says, I took 3 months off, it felt like 2 years. Hey, Westside Gunn, thank you for taking three months off. I can't review one of your albums every week, okay? And then this guy Fuego Bass jumps in. It's cool. Like, I thought it was just going to be some kind of just straight up opening track where Westside Gunn talks about, you know, how much sand is in between his toes. But Fuego Bass comes on with a very strong, funny verse. The Crack Olympics ain't a new sport. We in competition like Marlboro is with Newport. I only do headshots like a fat chick on IG. Just a kind of funny line. He talks about being noticed by Benny. And this helps to set the tone, too, of just like, that's the other thing about these posse cuts, you know, these albums with a posse or with a crew. I don't know what word I should use. I guess a crew. Because really Black Soprano Family feels like it's Benny's crew, that they're all constantly fighting for his favor. Fighting to be the one who's noticed, fighting to be the one who's central. Next song is called Shay Face, produced by Six Figa Digga. Very good beat again. Very Jay-Z in the 90s style. And I guess that's intentional. You know, that seems to be Benny the Butcher's primary focal point. And again, it's the thing that I love where, like, Jay-Z is dead, long live Jay-Z, you know? Like, Jay-Z still exists, but whatever Jay-Z was, he isn't. And even if you listen to 444 or the Jay Electronica album, he's just as good as he was, but he's not the same person that he was, and he doesn't really pretend to be. So beats like this, it's nice. It's nice to have that kind of throwback. Another straightforward verse from Rick Hyde. Benny the Butcher turned 8 to 24, thinking R.I.P. Kobe. How to get rich for dummies. That's just kind of a funny line. Not as funny as I played the anchorman for my team like Ron Burgundy. I hate to say you're aging yourself. I do a lot of Ron Burgundy jokes in my classes, and none of my college students know who Ron Burgundy is. There's just no culture. There's no culture. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say Logan Paul or Ninja. You know we're in rough shape when Will Ferrell is too deep for these kids. I'm joking, of course. Young people are smarter than older people. Always. Always. Every generation gets smarter than the previous generation. Always. You don't like it? You can die. 297 Parkside, produced by Camouflage Monk, one of my favorite producers in this invisible Renaissance space. And again, when I use that term, I took that term from someone named Sunez. I bought his book recently. I'm working on a book review. He actually did some good reviews of Benny the Butcher as well. So props to Sunez for the term invisible Renaissance, referring to the underground hip-hop explosion that started around 2010. A real sick sample from Camouflage Monk. You know, we are different people, different races, different aspirations. El Camino just has this great flow. Being broke made me humble. Now I got no choice but to stunt. It's a very good rags to riches verse. This is probably my other stamp of the album, just because Camouflage is such a great producer, and then everyone on here. And then we get Stove God Cooks, singing and rapping. And he is just perfecting his role. You know, I think the reason why I loved Hitler Wears Hermes 8, side A, so much, why I prefer it to side B, is Stove God's work, where Stove God basically did what West Side did, but did it without being as annoying. And I realize he's like becoming sort of like a Nate Dogg figure. Like, you know, Nate Dogg with R.I.P., speaking of R.I.P., with Dr. Dre, you know, hold up, we don't play, you know, a person is capable of singing something and you really like it. I was trying to come up with some kind of pun because up here in Western New York, we love hot dogs, and every city in Western New York has its own preferred hot dog brand. You know, in Buffalo, it's Saline, it's Weigel's in Rochester, because it's the best. In Syracuse, it's Hoffman. So I was trying to come up with like Nate Hoffman Dog. Or like, I was trying to come up with something like that for Stove God Cooks. Some kind of pun with hot dogs, Nate Hot Dog. Nothing panned out. It was, to tell you the truth, I shouldn't have even told this story, but I don't edit my videos. So you're just going to have to sit there and think, can I come up with, smash the like bucket. If you didn't like that joke, smash the like bucket. If you did like that joke, subscribe. You know, go to my Instagram and stuff. I got the tick and the talks and all that. But really the most important thing is that you smash the like bucket and you comment. I'd love you to just say, I read every comment. That's one thing Bliss Foster taught me. You need to tell people that you read comments. I read every single comment, and every time I get a comment, it makes me happy. A little smile on my face. I go, Even if the comment is just like, dope AF, great. You can just quote. You can just say dope AF whenever you want, and I will see it, and I will smile. I don't respond to everything because my kids tell me it makes me look needy, but I do read everything. My kids are probably right, and also, I am needy. Next song is called Danger Zone. It's a cover of the theme song from Top Gun by Kenny Loggins. No, it's not. No, it's a different song completely, but it is called Danger Zone. So try to get Highway to the Danger Zone out of your head. Rick Hyde production. Very good beat here. Very simplistic, but it's in the mode of the album. So it's like very good. Like it's a very good beat. And again, it really does seem like Rick Hyde does most of the heavy lifting for Black Soprano Family, if that makes sense. Like he might actually be their anchor man, like Ron Burgundy. The first verse is by someone called O.T. The Real, who I looked up, and there's a video of Benny the Butcher explaining that O.T. The Real is the only white rapper with street credibility he can stand on. And he kept on saying that he can stand on. I don't know what that means, but he's great. He has this great raspy voice. He keeps on talking about, I hope I make it home. A great thing about rap artists is often they're uneducated, but usually they're very smart. Or sometimes they're very smart. So when he says, the only A's and B's I ever got is assault and batteries, like that's just funny. That's a funny line, and it's very smart. BSF Heem, or is it Heem BSF? Whatever it is. I'll just call him Heem. It's funny because he gives this rhyme where he sounds a lot like he's trying to sound like Tupac. Now his voice doesn't sound like Tupac, but the way he says, play my enemies close, anytime you talk about an enemy, you sound like Tupac. Or adversaries. He sounds like, but then later on in the song, he actually says Tupac's name and says he's like him in Juice. So maybe this is an intentional thing. Do you hear it? Do you hear Tupac in Heem BSF? I mean, you don't think of that when you think of someone so East Coast as being affiliated with Benny the Butcher, but still. Rick Hyde has maybe his funniest verse here. You know, pray they don't turn to the police. He talks about having orange hair like Danny Bonaducci. I do love that hip-hop is allowing rap artists to age, because nobody under the age of, I mean, how old is Rick Hyde? How old do you have to be to know who Danny Bonaducci is? And then this is my one question about this beat, and this is what drives me crazy, and I want to simultaneously tell Rick Hyde, you did a great thing, and say, you did a terrible thing. There's this little bass sound that goes up at the end, once. Johnny Dangerously. One time. And it's the coolest part of the beat. You hear it and you're like, ah. Like, I want to do a remix. I want to get the stems of this whole song. I want to do Professor Sky remix where I just put that little sound like 5 more times in the song. That's it. That's my remix. Because it's such a cool sound. But at the same time, it's kind of cool that he doesn't. That's like a really cool flex to have like a really great little production note in your song and have it be just once. Next song, Pandemic Flow, produced by Alchemist. The Alchemist did congratulate me on my baby being born. So that's a highlight. I mean, you want to talk about having a good setup to be a good fan of hip-hop your entire life if the Alchemist says congratulations on being born. So it's pretty cool. I'm trying to think, like, if I was born and like Africa Bambaataa was like, congratulations on your baby being born to my dad, you know? What an awesome world we live in. Very good beat. I mean, the funny thing about Alchemist is whenever you see his name on a title, on a track list, you think, this better be the best beat on the album because everything he does is dope. And everything he does is dope. It's not the best beat on the album because DJ Premier. there's sort of like a hierarchy of like when you see their name, you know the beat. Like there's certain producers when you see their name, you know it's going to be good. You just know it. You know, people who are active now, you know, like Premier, Alchemist, Craven, Conductor Williams. I put Camouflage Monk on there as well. I put Kanye on there as well. You know, like certain producers, but you just know. So it's fun having Alchemist on here and having him have like the second or third best beat on the album. But still, great descending warbling sound. It's still an amazing Alchemist beat. First verse is Rick Hyde, kind of cool fast rapping style. So it's cool hearing that. Lots of very fast similes, kind of hard to keep up. There's a problem where, you know, it says it's 2020, I can do what I want. So there's this weird thing, you know, where rappers talk about what time it is very often. And so when you come out with an album in 2022, but it was actually recorded in 2020, it makes it feel old when it came out. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just 2000 and late. Conway's on here, which, if you know anything about me, you know he's my favorite member of Griselda in terms of his rapping. I'm from a city, a lot of despair, and Mama Love ain't have a dollar to spare. Solid verse from him. And then Corey Guns, who I don't know at all. I don't know if I've ever even reviewed a song with him on there, but he's the real standout on this track. He really is. Like, he has this great, odd, fast rapping style. Wine Teen, Rusty Toast, Hind Beam, New East Coast, Frying Green, Smooth Criminal, Try and Lean, Die and Breed. Just really interesting, very fast lines. Smooth Criminal, Try Lean. That's kind of funny. Although I've heard other people talk about Smooth Criminal in the context of lean. But still, the way he does it with these interior rhymes, you know, Teen Toast, Beam Coast in the same line. Green Criminal, Lean Breed. Next song is called Bastard Son, produced by Larry Birdbirch. There's no vowels in his name. Larry Birdbirch. This is a great beat. This might even be better than the Alchemist beat. I don't know. I've never heard of Laura Bird's beats, but this beat's great. And that's the other thing is that, you know, like I would say that like El Camino's verses on this album in general are better than Benny's. Because it makes sense because these crew cuts, you know, these crew albums, like the crew is always doing they are at 10. And the leaders are usually at 7, you know. So it's a great beat here from Larry Bird. Oh, Larry Bird beats? Is this after Larry Bird? Cool. I'm from Boston. Larry Bird is the 3rd best Celtic after Marcus Smart and Bill Russell. Just a totally killer beat. Like this flute beat and these hard drums and these claps and kind of stutter steps and moans. It fits really nicely with the Alchemist beat, come to think of it, because it really builds on a lot of things that Alchemist does. First verse, you know, BSF Heme starts, and I don't know if it's like his thing to say they know. And then I kept expecting someone else to come in, but no one else does. It's just BSF Heme's song. I ain't no killer, don't push me or you might bring it out of me. One of the realest I gotta be, feeling like the ghost of Prodigy, cause he's shook, and I'm chasing money, I go wherever the profit be. Yeah, it's nice hearing a reference to Prodigy of Mobb Deep, and just, you know, realist, that's a reference, and shook ones, that's a reference in there, it's pretty smart. It ends with kind of these claps, this great beat by Laura Birdbirch. And then there's like, it says this is an intermission. Then we get the primo bits where we have talking about the 18-wheeler and the song Times is Rough. And then we get to Mustachios. So, I don't like this song very much. And it's produced by, I think this one's produced by DJ Shay as well. It's kind of a guitar beat. I think it's the weakest song on the album. It's got Boldy James, and Boldy James is great. Boldy James has probably my favorite simile on the album. Lie more than a Persian rug. That's funny. And Heem has a weird line. We dressed up like bums. And I like Chase Fetty. Like, I like everything on here, but there's just something about it doesn't quite come together. This put me down a rabbit hole where I found a song by El Camino and Chase Fetty called Josh Allen, which is great. So I guess I should have reviewed that album as well. It could just be that I live in Western New York now, and anything called Josh Allen I have to worship. Next song is called Lee Low, produced by Ill Tone Production, who coincidentally produced that Josh Allen song. Cool kind of doo-wop sample. This song was out of nowhere. So when Bone Thugs and Harmony arrived on the scene, I was like, no, thank you. Humana, nope. Hamina, nope. Shh. Shh. That's what it was like to me. Hamina, as quickly as I could. And then like they were on the Biggie album. Biggie. Like I have not once in my entire life listened to that song. I love Notorious B.I.G. He's one of my favorite rappers, but I'm looking back at it. I find their style so aggravating that I have never listened to them. But I'm starting to think, I could be wrong. Like, thinking about it now, like, well, at least they were doing something different. Wait, they were out of Cleveland? That's cool. So maybe I was just being a dummy. Could you tell me, like, if you are a Bone Thugs and Harmony fan, like, what should I know? Is there, like, a song that you think, and not the Hemina one, the famous one, but like some other one. Is there one I should really listen to get into it? Because this song is funny because it seems to be that everyone is trying to imitate their style. Trying to be what I believe they refer to as a Bone clone. El Camino shows off his ability to change his style. Love Boat. What's this guy's name? Love Boat Luciano. That's funny. It's like a wrestler guy and a gangster. Does this kind of sing-songy style, and then Crazy Bone comes on. And Crazy Bone, I don't know the differences between any of the bones. He has this line, only the strong survive, then again, the strong still die. Wondering how long will I be amongst the strong to stay alive? That's a great verse. So I don't care if it's only the strong survive, then again the strong still die. I mean, he doesn't do it that way, but it could have been that way. Maybe I just was, you know what it was? That was at the point where it wasn't really clear if hip hop was just going to go full R&B, full singing, if it was all going to be singing, and if we were just going to lose rapping. And I think I saw them as a harbinger of the end of hip hop. So one of my favorite lines in the entire album comes from Crazy Bone. Next song is Respect to Shay, which is an interlude from the Joe Budden podcast. I really like Joe Budden. I watch Joe Budden a lot. He's become more difficult to listen to since he's gotten more into the manosphere stuff. He's always kind of flirted with that, you know, with this kind of like weird mentality. But as far as like hip hop commentators go, he's just great. Super interesting. I mean, I like the old guys. I like Rory and Mal. I like the new guys as well. So it's fun to hear that. I like it because it does help you to understand, you know, that like, well, if Joe Budden says this, then that adds added importance. Then we get to the song Bigger BSF, produced by Rick Hyde. A very cool kind of beat here. There's very aggravating high notes in the back. This is a posse cut. Hyde has a very good verse here. Probably my favorite verse. There's a sort of like emphaticness to him. BSF Heem's quite interesting. Benny the Butcher's on here. Money don't matter to Butch. Guess that's how it feel when you're having this much. He rhymed Butch with much. It's okay. Yeah, Heem references being not bad for a trench baby, which is a very interesting image. Armani Caesar's on here. Armani Caesar is funny because I think I prefer her in a long form. I prefer her in a whole album, as opposed to like just being some like female rapper flavor on someone else. I don't know what it is, but I really liked her album, the one with the three eyes. And I like her here, but I think she's stronger on her own. But I do like maybe some of the best inspirational lines. I don't keep score, I keep scoring. Best thing I ever did was keep going. Next song is Brody, produced by Jansport J. Very good beat. Underwater and catchy. El Camino's on here. I just love the hunger. Was restless, chain smoking. As soon as the stress hits, I was reckless because I knew I was protected. Me with no hustles, like a church with no reverend. That's a great line. You know, me with no hustles, like a church with no reverend. Is like the hustle is the center of his being. So there's a church with no reverend is a church with no one directing it. So you without hustle is like that. It's an interesting idea. Unexpectedly sung chorus on this one. And then we get to the last song, Mr. Pyrex Man, produced by Wavy West and Fresh Ayer. I don't know why I said Wavy West like Trump. This is produced by Wavy West. Oh, we love Wavy West, don't we? Don't we love Wavy West? And the funny thing about this is that this is supposed to be your reward. This is the dessert at the end of the meal. You know that you are going to get a Benny the Butcher song. You're going to get something that could have been on 10 O'Talk 4, or might be on 10 O'Talk 5, or might be on The Plugs I Met 11, or might be, right? Like this is supposed to be that ice cream after you eat all your broccoli. But that's not it. It's not. Like, I hear this song, and I'm sort of like, where's El Camino at? You know, I could hear Rick. I could hear Rick Hyde on this. It totally works to the point where you're like, I don't want this to be the crew. I mean, I do want this to be the crew. I don't want a solo Benny song on this album. Like what I thought was going to be Ice Cream wasn't. Still, I mean, he's great. I got love from Mittens, some anxious and some patient. The patient one's up, the others just want cases. You know, that's interesting. That's headed towards that little bit more heart-based hip-hop stuff there, you know, talking about anxiety and patience. Yeah, so there's the album. the album I didn't want to review. I didn't want to review it, but I did. And I'm happy I did. Because they just keep making great stuff. And it is a testament to the fact that DJ Shay had this vision and he executed it. And that DJ Shay and West Side Gun, all these guys can take nowhere. Buffalo is a tough city. I'm from Western New York now. That's where I live. Western New York is a tough place, and Buffalo is a tough place in that tough place. And they're from the tough part of the tough place of a tough place, okay? That they were able to take that and not only put that on the map, like financially, but artistically. Long live DJ Shay. There's the camera.